to get centered. So if you're feeling a little bit more low energy today, maybe lying down is good. Seated is fine. I think I'm going to start seated myself. And if you are laying down, you could maybe lay back over a bolster, for example, or just lay down with your knees bent and your feet on the floor. Just kind of see what feels comfortable for you to just sort of get centered and connected. And I am going to place one hand on my belly, kind of womb land, and the other one around my heart, sort of center of the chest. So if that feels like a shape that resonates for you, please feel free to join me here. And then just start to connect to your breath. That might mean that you're starting with a sigh. Or a few of those, or just deepening your breath. And sort of letting your shoulders drop. Widening the space between your eyebrows. And just noticing how you're holding your head and maybe just adjusting it to that place where you feel like your jaw can relax. So for most of us, that means tipping the chin slightly up. And just imagine that you are kind of opening to yourself. And if you've got a little one with you, maybe you're opening with little one. Maybe you've got your eyes open. Just connecting to yourself in this moment as much as you can, which again might include your little. And I'm just really noticing those parts of your body that may need some breath, parts of your body that feel like they're a little tense or shut down, and just imagining that you are softening them and letting the breath come in. Noticing where the breath is needed. And I know that sometimes it can be a challenge to notice yourself, notice your body, especially if you are a new parent. So this is just an opportunity to do that, just to listen a little bit. Just to pay attention to what's happening and notice if you're kind of coming into that with any feelings of like, oh, I shouldn't feel that way, or I should change this, or I should do this or that, or whatever. And just see if instead you can just notice, and if anything, say thank you. And just notice how it feels to say thank you to your body, even the parts that feel a little tight or shut down right now. And noticing if your body is telling you anything in particular about what you might need today from your yoga practice or sort of in general. Just take a moment to let your body talk to you if it has anything in particular it wants to say. Beautiful. Okay. So when you feel ready, let's bring in a little bit of movement. So depending on the shape that you're in, that might just be wiggling the fingers. You might be doing a big stretch, stretching out the legs. If you're laying on your back, I'd love for you to come and meet me in a seat. So you can just kind of crawl your way up there, rolling to one side first. And just a simple seat is fine. It doesn't have to be cross-legged. We're just going to focus on the upper body a little bit here. I feel like the postpartum neck and shoulders is just such a thing for everybody. It's really just all that kind of looking down, I guess, that we're doing and carrying and all of those things. So we really need some space for the neck and shoulders. So let's inhale, reaching the arms up to the sky. And then exhale and draw the hands down along the midline. I'm just doing this a couple more times with the breath. So really filling up with breath. And exhaling. One more. Beautiful. Okay, and then we're going to reach the arms up once again on the inhale, but this time on the exhale, let's come into a cactus shape. So we've just got the elbows bent and the fingers spread, and we're just going to do some, let's do it with the breath to start. So we're going to inhale to close the space between the shoulder blades and exhale to just come back to neutral. So you're just going to feel that mid-back closing and opening. So as you inhale, the chest puffs forward and we get this little squeeze of the rhomboid area, which is the muscles in between the shoulder blades. And let's do that one more time. And then let's just relax the hands for a moment and roll the shoulders. So we're going to do one more here. And this is a little piece that I found extremely useful, especially if you do have a lot of tension kind of up in this range, upper trapezius. So if we can activate the lower part of the trapezius, it actually turns these muscles off. They can relax, okay? So here's how we're going to do that. I'm going to reach the arms up, come back into that cactus shape, and then there's still a little bit of a feeling of what we were just doing, shoulder blades together, but I also want you to try to touch your elbows around behind your back. So it's like the bottom tips of the shoulder blades are coming together. And then exhale and just come back to neutral. Inhale, try to touch your elbows around behind you and feel that sort of lower part of the shoulder blades really activating. And soften. Okay, we'll just do that a couple more times. Really waking up those muscles so that these guys up here don't have to be doing so much of the work. Let's try for two more. And last one. And then relax your arms. You can roll them if you like. The shoulders, that is. And then just take a moment to notice if that feels any different for you, if there's any more space on this kind of upper neck region. And then you could just see if you can find that activation without doing the movement with your elbows. So just remember what it felt like to hug your elbows around behind you and see if you can get those bottom tips of the shoulder blades to activate. So it's kind of pulling the tops of the shoulders down. Okay. And we'll just keep that in mind as we move through some other things. So let's take the fingertips onto the shoulders and make some nice big circles with the elbows. This is a nice, really simple little shoulder therapy. I've had a tricky shoulder the last little while. It's giving me some trouble. It's nice to do a little bit of work through that shoulder region. Let's reverse the direction of the circle. I'm just noticing how it feels different or if it's a bit sticky. Awesome. And then we'll just gently release the hands down. Okay, and if you want to change your legs, you can. I'm just going to take the other leg in front. Then we're going to reach the arms up again. This time we're going to twist, so I'll mirror you for this part. So twisting to the right, letting the left hand come to the outside of the leg and the right hand just around behind you comfortably. This doesn't have to be a really deep twist. Lifting the heart and gently spiraling towards the back of the room. Pull the shoulders down the back, and you might even pull up a little bit on the knee that you're holding, which helps to pull the shoulder down. And then bring the right ear over towards the right shoulder and just see if you can get a nice little bit of a neck stretch there. And I'm just sort of tilting my head down and up, just kind of getting into those different regions of the neck. And then softly release the neck. Gently come back to center. We'll reach the arms up and just go to the other side. So twisting the opposite way, taking the right hand onto the knee if you can hold it, or just whatever's comfortable is fine. Left hand just comfortably behind you, shoulders down. You might pull up on the knee a bit. So that kind of lengthens these muscles here. And then as you bring the left ear towards the shoulder, you might get a nice neck stretch. And I can feel that that's one of the areas that's kind of pulling my shoulder out of alignment there, is that upper back region, neck region. Okay, and then gently head back to neutral, return to center, and once again, you can roll the shoulders out a little bit. And then let's come down to laying on our back. So if you're sitting on a prop, you can move it out of the way. I'm just going to give my legs a nice little shake. And then we'll roll down onto our back. So you can just roll on back. If you have some diastasis, it might be nice to just come onto your side first, kind of like you would when you're pregnant, and lay on your back. So let's get a little bit of awareness into the pelvic area, and we'll go from there. So, and actually maybe I'll show you something about hyperpressives today that might be interesting. So let's inhale and tilt the pelvis forward so we get a little bit of space into the belly. And then exhale, gather your pelvic floor in and up, scoop the belly button towards the spine and lengthen your back. And just notice how that feels, okay? Inhaling, relax the belly, relax the pelvic floor. And then as you exhale, gather the pelvic floor in and up, scoop the belly button towards the spine and flat. Let's just do that one more time. This is not an unfamiliar exercise right at this point for many of us. And then take a moment to soften. So I've just been learning a little bit more about hypopressives lately. So I'm going to show you a little piece that might be interesting with this one. So when we do that sort of flattening of the back lengthening, we want to do that here, but we're actually going to do it with our hands. So you can lift your bum up, hold on to the back of your pelvis, and actually physically lengthen it. So you want to feel not so much that you're kind of contracting your abs to lengthen, but rather that you're just getting this space and the belly is just kind of softening back towards the heart, kind of like when we're doing a supported bridge, but we're going to lay that right down on the ground and you're going to do your best to keep it. So yes, your abs will be working a bit, but it's more so that lengthening that is the focus. We're going to do the same thing with the back of the head. So we're going to lift the head up, lengthen it. It's like we're trying to traction the spine and then lay the head back onto the mat. Okay, and then we can take the palms face up and pull the shoulders down. So you can think about what we were just doing in terms of the shoulder blades drawing down the back. You can keep your knees bent or you can straighten them if you like, but if you do straighten them, it's a bit harder to keep this length in the back. So I'm just going to keep the knees bent for now. Okay. So the feeling here is really that we're drawing up. I don't know how much you guys can see this, but there's actually a hollowing kind of just above my pubic bone here that we're sort of looking for with the hypopressives, okay? So we're gonna inhale through the nose, exhale out the mouth, inhale through the nose, exhale out the mouth, then one more time. And then just push the air out a little bit more and just feel how your abdominal muscles can engage. And then we can just relax that and take a moment. If you'd like to roll your hips around a little bit, pelvic tilts or windshield wipers can be nice. Okay, so that's like a little prep pose for the hypopressives. So just noticing how that feels. It's a little bit of a different way of getting into the pelvic floor and kind of rearranging the organs after having been pregnant. This is one of the things I'm working on with my physio. And I'm just going to show you one more piece of this if you're interested. So we've seen this before in this class. It's called Nali Kriya. There's a yoga exercise that we do here. As a hypopressive, it's slightly different, but it's the same idea. It's a breath retention. Okay, so if it doesn't feel good or safe for you to hold your breath, you don't have to do this part. Okay, you can just do the exhales. But if you do want to try it, the feeling here is that you're holding your breath out. So we'll do that whole sequence. We'll exhale the air out, and then you could actually plug your nose and try to inhale without any air coming in. The diaphragm is what's working here. So it lifts and expands, and then it kind of draws the whole contents of the abdomen up, okay? So let's do that little prep again. So lift the bum, lengthen, and lay the back down without overly tightening the abdominals. Lift the back of the neck, tractioning the spine, laying down, palms up beside you, shoulders down as best as you can. Inhale through the nose. Exhale out the mouth. We're just holding this kind of weird position. Inhale and exhale. And again. And this time, if you're comfortable, hold the air out. You can hold your nose if you want to. And we're sucking the abdomen in and up. Relax the belly, breathe in and relax. So just noticing how that feels. This is a really lovely treatment for prolapse if that's something that you deal with, okay? So let's rock the head from side to side. Let's wash the knees from side to side, just kind of letting that go. And then let's add just a little bit of a more classic core exercise here. So you can interlace your fingers around behind the back of your head. We've got the feet on the mat, core gently engaged. So pelvic floor draws in and up, belly scooping, but we're not overly flattening the back, okay? And then we can lift the shoulder blades up. You can definitely skip that if it doesn't feel safe, or if you feel like your belly is kind of popping up. Otherwise, we'll lift it. And then you can just march one foot off the ground at a time. So inhaling to lift the foot, exhaling to put it back down. So this is a really great place to start when it comes to core, or just to maintain and kind of work with. But I know some of you are feeling relatively strong here. So if you want to add a little more challenge, you can bring your knees in and then extend one leg back, one leg at a time. So that's going to be obviously a little bit more load bearing for your core. So feel free to try that if you like, but we really want to think about the belly drawing in and up. Okay, so I'm inhaling to lift the knee up and exhaling to extend the leg. And the leg can go sort of more up or more forward. So the more forward the leg goes, the more work your core is going to have to do. So just kind of being aware of that and self-regulating around the place where you feel like there's a bit of challenge, but it's not stressful or painful. Lovely. Okay, and we'll just try for one more each side. And then relax. You can hug the knees in and rock side to side. And you could also come into a happy baby. So soles of the feet to the sky, knees open wide. And we get that nice release into the groin and the inner thighs, which can be an indirect stretch for the pelvic floor. So if you've got some tightness in the pelvic floor, some stuff going on there, sometimes this is a nice place to just indirectly give it a little bit of a stretch. Okay, we'll gently release that. You can give the legs a little shake and then place the feet on the mat again. So I'd love for us to take a couple of just straight Kegels, like our regular old Kegels. And some people like to do that laying on the back. Okay, there's nothing kind of coming down onto the pelvic floor laying on the back. So for some people that makes it easier. For some people it actually makes it harder. So you're welcome to come up to a seat. And it can be quite interesting to sit on something so that you get a little bit of feedback. I have a great little pool noodle, not with me, but that I like to use sometimes for this, but I'm actually just going to use my bolster up on its middle height, and I'm going to come to kneel on it. So you could do something like this. You could do a yoga mat. You could do a rolled towel. You could also use nothing. You don't necessarily have to have anything. Maybe you're just imagining, okay, that there's something there. So you've just got that piece of support right in between your sit bones. Then the first thing that we're going to do is just kind of soften, melt over that support. Just imagine the pelvic floor really opening. couple of breaths. So naturally, when we're not thinking about it, the pelvic floor will expand a bit on the inhale and it will draw in and up a little bit on the exhale. So maybe just noticing it. We're not sort of doing any particular effort right now, aside from, relaxing, which sometimes it takes an effort to relax the pelvic floor. And if this feels like the right place to stay, if just working on relaxing is where you're at, that's perfect. Otherwise, we'll try just a couple of contractions and see how that goes. So on the inhale, we're relaxing, we're melting. On the exhale, we're gathering the pelvic floor in and up. So it's as if you were trying to pick up a blueberry with your vagina and draw it into your body. And then on the inhale, we're dropping or gently releasing the blueberry again. On the exhale, we're gathering in and up. And if you are sitting on something, sometimes that's helpful because you can imagine actually gathering the thing up and then inhaling to soften. Let's just try for 2 more. Just with your own breath, and you might need an extra breath in between here or there. And we'll end with softening, just relaxing. Beautiful. Good. So if you are sitting on something and you want to stay here for a moment, sometimes it's nice to just rock a little bit forward and back or side to side, just to sort of feel the different areas of the pelvic floor. Sometimes we have like little pockets of scar tissue or the same kind of knots we can get in our backs, like we can get in the pelvic floor. And so sometimes different areas feel different things, and it can be nice to just give it a chance to get a little bit of feedback around that softening. And if you don't have a prop in, just imagining, you don't necessarily need one. And then from here, let's make our way to our hands and our knees. So if you're laying down, you can roll to one side. If you're sitting on something, just gently coming off. And let's take our hands and knees, or fists and knees, if your wrists are not crazy about being on hands and knees. Spreading the fingers, knees right under hips, toes can be tucked or not. And let's just take some cat and cow. So inhaling into a little bit of a back bend and exhaling to curl under, and just noticing how that feels for you today. Noticing how the work that we've been doing so far is resonating in your body at this point. Maybe you're adding some side to side motion or some circles. Beautiful. Okay, and then let's take Anahatasana, which I've just been really feeling like this is for me lately. So if you have a block, I'd love for you to try it with a block. You just hold the block right in between your hands. So you've just got the longest edge of the block in between your hands, and your elbows come down onto the mat thusly. If you don't have a block, you can do it just up on your fingertips with your hands a little bit wider. Okay, so there's just 2 different ways of doing that. So you're gonna walk your hands forward or your knees back. Your bum is over your knees, if slightly behind. And I like my knees just a bit wider than hips distance for this. And then I'm melting my heart back towards my thighs. Okay, forehead or chin can come down. And you're just kind of melting your heart back. And if you do have the block, you're just pressing your hands into it very gently. Maybe there's a little sway from side to side here if that feels good. And then we can settle back into a child's pose. So you can bring your toes together, knees wide, and settle your hips back to your heels. You can keep your arms forward if you want, or maybe take them back behind you. If your kiddo is a little more mobile and they're with you, this for me is one that Grant quite likes to climb on me during child's pose. If they're a little bit older, they can do child's pose. It's named after them, right? So they can do it with you. So toes are together, knees are as wide as you like them, and we're just going to breathe into the back body for a moment. There's something so soothing about child's pose. Okay, so you're welcome to stay here if you're feeling like, yeah, this is nice. You can stay right here in your child's pose. Otherwise, we'll just add a twist to it. Or it's more of a side stretch, really. So you can reach your arms forward if they're not, and walk your hands over to the right. You can pick up your belly and kind of lay it on your thigh if that feels good. Fingertips are reaching out. So I'm going to my right and my left fingertips are reaching out. And you can let your forehead come down. So there's a little bit of a stretch along. For me, I feel this kind of into my shoulder and down along my side into my lower back. Nice. And then we'll gently come up and over to the other side. Maybe you're laying your belly a bit on your thigh, reaching out with your right hand, up on fingertips if that feels good. Just breathing into your right side. Beautiful. And then we'll come back through center when you feel ready, and let's try a downward facing dog. So if downward dog isn't working for you today, hands and knees is great. You can extend one leg back at a time, and you can be on your fist there if downward dog, or being on your wrist rather, is not working for you. Okay, if you are going to come into it, the hands are a little bit farther forward from your shoulders. You can tuck the toes and lift up the bum. A little bit of a bend in the elbows, and we're hugging them in. And then you can pedal your heels, bending one knee at a time. Let's see how this feels. And you might also visit just that hyperpressive feeling here. So again, make sure that there's no pain in your shoulders or anything, but you could imagine just kind of lengthening your back a little bit more, and then imagining you're kind of drawing your belly button back towards your spine, so your abdomen kind of sucks up towards your diaphragm. And then soften that, just neutral spine. Maybe give your head a little shake. And then let's walk up to the hands coming into a standing forward bend. You're welcome to rest your elbows on your bent knees, or hang down, or have your fingertips on the earth. You can give your head a little shake. The inversions are also, so if you have the sniffles a lot because you have a baby who gets sick a lot, which is a thing for me for sure, having your head below your heart, it depends on the situation, but it often feels really nice just for kind of getting things moving in terms of the sinuses. So it might feel good to just allow yourself to be in that inversion for a few moments. So you might have to blow your nose afterwards. They're actually pretty good for clearing out the sinuses, inversions, as long as it's not too extreme. Okay, let's roll up when you're ready. You can bend your knees, draw your belly in, and slowly curl up one vertebrae at a time. Just making sure that feels safe for your back. And coming to standing, you can roll your shoulders onto your back. And just take a moment to notice how that feels. Good. Okay, and let's do a little bit of glute strengthening, and you can include baby in this if you'd like. So we'll start with our kind of baby weightlifting. If you don't have your kiddo with you, if they're too big, you might not want to do this. But we're just going to take our feet about mat's distance apart, and the toes can be slightly turned out. Okay, and then if you are working with baby, you can sink your hips, gather up little one, and come to stand, and we're just going to hold them. And if you don't have a little one with you, you don't need them. Okay, we can do it with or without. You can have your hands on your hips if you're not carrying someone. Okay, so we're just going to inhale and then exhale, sink the hips back, bend the knees, and then inhale, press into the heels and just rise back up again. This is harder if you are holding a baby, just by the way. Sinking the hips on your exhale, pressing into the heels and rising up. So keep your chest lifted, back neutral. We're just doing a few reps to get the glutes activated. Okay, so as you press into the heels, I want you to really feel that the glutes are what fires up. And when we're working the glutes, we're actually also working the pelvic floor a little bit, and we're working some muscles that are complementary to the pelvic floor. So you don't necessarily need to do anything with the pelvic floor, though it might feel good to engage it a little bit as you're working here. But just know that that's sort of included in the work that we're doing. Okay, let's try for 2 more. And then you can stay standing and just give your hips a nice little rock from side to side. Maybe a little circle. We'll do some more hip release for sure. But first, let's release our shoulders because, oh my goodness, do we ever need that? So if you are holding baby, you can do the reverse to come down. So sinking hips, keeping your back neutral, just gently placing baby down. And then standing back up with that same quality. So in an ideal world, you have a corner of a wall like I have here, or a door jamb, okay, or something where you can put your hand on it. If you don't, a door or a wall of any kind, you can just place your hand on it, okay? So the idea here is that you're just going to stabilize your hand on something, just whatever you've got. You've got your hand out at about 90, or it's sort of like a T shape with your body, so it's straight out from your shoulder. We're going to hug the shoulders down the back, and then we're just going to gently turn away from the arm until we feel a little stretch in the chest. Okay, so it's just this nice opening here in this area that gets so tight with all the lifting and carrying and soothing and cuddling and nursing and whatever it is that we're doing. So just breathing here, nice deep breaths. Nothing too fancy, but man, does this feel good. Yeah, so when you're ready, you're just going to turn back to neutral. Let the hand relax softly by your side and just take a moment to feel that. And then let's do that on the second side. So I'm going to be turning away from you here for a moment. The hand is just out at the same level as your shoulder. And if you're on a wall, the hand would just be flexed back. It's just a little bit of a different feeling. You're keeping your arms straight, the shoulders down the back, and you're just turning away until you feel a bit of a stretch. Notice if your shoulders are kind of creeping up to your ears, and try to keep the shoulders soft. And then we'll gently ease off, relax the arm, and just take a moment to feel that. Just notice how that might be a little bit different after doing that little bit of a stretch. You can roll your shoulders a couple times if you want. Beautiful. Okay, let's work with a little bit of flow. So you can come back to your mat. And we'll just get the blood circulating a little bit. We'll be opening the hips and other things like that. So just standing up near the top of your mat. And this one I do find actually maybe can be pretty entertained if you have them up at the top of your mat. You'll be kind of coming and going with them. So next time you inhale, let's reach the arms up. Find that kind of lift through the belly. And then exhale, swim down to the earth. Take a halfway lift, draw your heart forward and up. And then step your right foot back behind you and let's lower the knee down. So feel free to pat it if you need to, and that might just mean double folding your mat underneath your knee. Reach your arms up. Draw your tailbone down a little bit. Press the hips forward until you feel a nice stretch around here, top of the thigh. You can bend your right elbow or just hold the hand and take a little bit of a side stretch to the left. Okay, from here, bring your elbow back up and then place that right hand off your mat onto the floor. Okay, open your left arm up to the sky. So you're in a nice open twist. And we're gonna flow with this a little bit. So here's your inhale. On the exhale, you're gonna wrap your arm underneath your armpit. So you're kind of widening the space between your shoulder blades. And then as you inhale, opening and close that shoulder blade space again. Just as slow as you need to go. This shoulder for me is a little sensitive today, so I'm just gonna make sure I don't go too fast for it. Usually following the breath is a good pace. I'm just gonna take one more. Awesome, and then we'll bring the hands down and straighten the front leg. So you can untuck the back toes and you can put your hands on blocks if that's helpful as well. A little bend to the knee, draw the tailbone back. As you inhale, draw your heart forward. And as you exhale, gently melt. Just a couple times like that. Inhale and exhale. Good. Okay. And then take a little halfway lift. Stick your bum out behind you. Draw the left hip back, and you might try walking your hands a little bit to the left, even to the outside of your leg. And that's going to get into the outer hamstring IT band region that can be really tight for a lot of us. So this might feel very interesting. We're not going into pain though, or tingling or anything like that. So just be gentle. Okay, and then we'll gently come back, bend into that front leg, return to the top of the mat. Take a halfway lift and then step your left foot back. We're just going to do that sequence on the second side. So the knee comes down. Pat it as needed. Reach your arms up. Draw the tailbone down, hips come a little bit forward. You can hold your left hand or bend the elbow, either is fine. Lengthen and side stretch a bit to the right. I've always loved this one, but I found especially postpartum, it's just getting that space into my side body, and the opening into the shoulder is so nice. Beautiful. And then we'll come up through center, gently release the left fingertips or palm just right off the mat. So we can take a nice open twist here, reaching the right arm up. Inhale, squeezing the shoulder blades. Exhale, wrapping the arm under the armpit. So that's on the inside of the leg. And then unfurling. And just let your gaze roughly follow your hand. So the upper cervical spine is moving with the rest of your spine, but you don't want to hurt your neck, so you don't have to go too far there. I'm just finding that space along the upper body. Beautiful. Maybe one more. Nice. And then the hands are going to come down to either side of your front foot. And you can straighten that leg and flex the foot. Back toes can be untucked. There's just a little rise and fall here, so lengthening and melting. And then you can look forward, draw the right hip a little bit back, and you might start to just sort of aim your chest a little bit more to the right, maybe even taking your hands to the outside of the leg. So you don't have to go too far here, just until you start to feel a stretch. Keep that front foot flexed. Beautiful. And then we'll gently come back through center, and this time we're going to step the front foot back so that we're on our knees at the back of the mat. So I'm just going to give you a couple of options. We're going to do sort of a vinyasa here if you want to work a little bit more. You could also take cat and cow or child's pose. So just depending on where your energy is, what feels right for you, cat and cow or child's pose, or follow me. So I'm going to come into downward dog. I'm going to inhale and ripple forward into plank, and then I'm going to exhale and press back. And I'm going to do that 2 more times. So I want to really draw that belly in, finding a little bit of work into my core, shoulders. You can do this on your knees too, by the way, if that works better for you. Okay, and then we're going to come into plank on or off the knees. And then I'm going to come down to my knees because we're going to do a couple push-ups, and that's where I'm at with push-ups. So I'm going to widen my hands a bit wider, look forward and get that nice plank shape, hug shoulders onto the back, and 3 times I'm going to lower and press back up. So I want to feel those shoulder blades coming a little bit together. Doesn't have to be a deep push-up or anything, just 3 of those, and then all the way to the earth. Pointing the toes, reaching the hands back, or hooking the thumbs, or interlacing the fingers. Hug the elbows, lift the heart, and just take that nice little chest stretch after the push-ups, pressing the tops of the feet down. And then let's meet each other in child's pose. So you can gently press back, bring the hips to the heels, and relax. And just take a moment to receive that. Okay, and then let's come into a little bit of a hip opening pose. So I'd like to offer pigeon. So if you have a bolster, it's quite nice for pigeon. You don't need one necessarily, but it can be quite nice. So I'm just going to take my left shin over the bolster, and I'm going to bring the foot all the way to the front so the whole shin is on the mat in front of the bolster. Then I'm just going to wiggle my hips and try to get my back leg straight. So if you don't have a bolster, you can use a block or a cushion underneath your left hip, or you could sit back on the floor. So this would be without a bolster, and take 90-90 pose. So some bodies really prefer this one, not mine, but some people really do like that 90-90 pose. Okay, I like pigeon better for myself. So if you're in pigeon, taking that nice long lift through the heart, and you can stay here or you can fold down onto your elbows. If you have extra props, you can also put something under your forehead or chest. And in 90-90 pose, you're also folding down, and you can play with if you're folding closer to your knee or closer to your foot. You'll get different sensations depending on where you are. And if you do have the bolster for your pigeon, it's a little bit more passive than if you are working with no props or with a smaller prop. If you have no props or a smaller prop, you need to be using your muscles a little more to hold you up. If you have the bolster, you can kind of relax into it a bit more. So maybe we're letting the breath come down into the belly a bit more now. And just softening into those hips. Beautiful. And then we'll press up to the hands and come out of it. So you can press back to downward dog for sure and shake out your leg. You could also sit on your bum and swing the back leg to the front, which is what I'm doing. It's a bit of a lazier way, and that's how I'm feeling right here, is a little lazier. So I'm just windshield wipering my knees from side to side. And then we'll come to the second side. So laying the right shin down in front of the bolster and extending the left leg back. Again, 90-90 is great, especially if you don't have props. Okay, you can definitely do this with a little cushion or block. I like the bolster because it supports both hips. And if you're in pigeon, you're not trying to have a 90-degree angle with your front knee. Okay, some people can, but not many of us. Okay, then we're lengthening that back leg, lifting the heart on the inhale, and then folding down. Maybe you're putting a prop under your forehead or your chest or both. Just nice deep breaths, allowing that hip to release. Beautiful. And then when you feel ready, we can gently press up. Again, you can extend back and shake out the right leg, especially if you did that on the first side. Otherwise, you can just lean over onto that right hip and bring the back leg around to the front. And we can wash the knees from side to side. Okay. And then let's come off the prop if you're sitting on something. Though you may want to sit on it a little bit more like a regular seat, or take something lower. So the bolster would be too high for me, but I'm going to take this low prop here, this little chip block. I'm going to extend my legs wide. Okay, so you can see how wide you want to go. It doesn't have to be as wide as humanly possible. This can be a nice one with baby, because you can have them there. Flexing the feet up, and it is okay to have a bit of a bend in your knees for this one if you need as well. This is also a bit of an indirect stretch for the pelvic floor. So you can have your fingertips on the mat beside your hips or to the inside, depending how wide your legs are. Roll the shoulders back, lift the heart. That might be it. Okay, you might be tilting forward a little bit, maybe even coming down to your elbows. So make sure that your back feels good. You want to think about stretching your heart forward rather than trying to get your head to touch the floor or anything. Okay, so think length, feet pointing up to the sky, and this is mostly sort of an inner thigh groin stretch. And this forward fold, so not for everybody, but for a lot of people, forward folds are quite calming for the nervous system. So there's a little bit of a feeling of kind of softening and receiving, which is really something. Regulating the nervous system is really something that I think for especially new parents, maybe parents forever, but you know, our nervous systems can get quite a workout. So it's really nice to just have practices that help us to just ground, come back to feeling safe, come back to feeling connected to our bodies. And forward folds can help with that for some of us. Okay, when you feel ready, you can gently come back through center. Bring the legs in. You might want to use your hands to help you. Sometimes I like to kind of wobble them in. And then let's take the windshield wipers. So feet are wide, knees bent, and we're just going to wash the knees from side to side. And you can add a little twist here. So as the knees move to the right, you can just spiral yourself to the right. And come back to center, let the knees move to the left, and you can gently spiral to the left. And this, it could be faster or slower, so don't rush. If you feel like you want to spend a little bit more time here, that's fine. I'm just going to take a couple of rounds of this. Just like a little squeeze and release for the spine. Also soothing for the nervous system. And just nice deep breaths help. And then when that feels complete for you, you can come back through center, give your legs a little wobble. And we're going to transition into our Shavasana from here. So postpartum Shavasana, you can definitely lie down on your back. I know if you've got baby there, you might not be lying down, and that's fine. Maybe you could lie on your tummy and do tummy time with them, or whatever works for you. If you do have the space to do a little bit more of a Shavasana, and I can kind of do Shavasana with Grant because he kind of plays around me, but I can't really keep my eyes closed. I kind of got to keep my eye on him because he's a mischievous little guy, but I can lie down and then he jumps on me. So I'm gonna lay back over my bolster, and if you do have a bolster, this could be done with a cushion as well, a rolled up blanket. Just those postpartum shoulders can use a little bit more opening for, I think, probably all of us. So feel free to take that if that's comfortable. If there's some other shape that works better for you, especially in whatever situation you're in, feel free to do that. Add your layers. Maybe your little one want to lay down with you. Just taking a nice deep breath. Maybe coming back to that, noticing, can I nod my head until my jaw softens a bit? Can I soften the space between my eyebrows? Can I allow my breath to move into the places that feel a little tight or a little shut down? And be in a space of receiving. Take a moment just to notice how you're feeling, how you're receiving this practice, which is largely just a space where we can connect to ourselves and the bodies that we have in the moment, and let that be okay. Noticing if there's anything that your body is trying to tell you. And then you can begin to deepen your breath. Wiggle your toes and fingers. You might take a little bit of a stretch, reaching your arms up, legs out long. Drawing in your knees and rolling over to one side. And making your way to a comfortable seat. And if it resonates for you, you might place a hand on your heart and a hand around your womb again. Just coming back to that feeling of thank you. And if you've got baby there, you could have hands on baby, and you could also say to baby, thank you. Just honoring and acknowledging whatever it took for you to get here to your practice. Honoring and acknowledging the long and complex lineage of teachers that are with us in our practice. And honoring the sacredness of the land that we practice on, wherever that may be in the world. And thank you for sharing that practice.